after the Lakers game, you were asked about performance of the team you wanted to see the Clippers game.
Yeah.
So, looking back on the trip, what are you seeing?
Well, I mean, obviously, compared to what we were going into the trip, we felt good about the way that we played. The Clippers played great. As you look back on the film, our defense was not very good, but their offense was outstanding. So sometimes that plays a role in it too. The other team's out there too. So, but I do think we need to clean some things up. We talked today about we need to be much better in transition than we've been, and we need to clean up some of our defensive and offensive habits. And that's really the focus of the next month. And so today we did a ton of simulation of transition without the sprinting and getting back and guarding actions that we're going to see a lot of. And then the best challenge we can get is working on our transition defense in the league is tomorrow night. They're the #1 transition offense in the league.
How was Jesus doing with his shoulder?
Fine. So he did everything, so I'm guessing.
What was it that this team seemed to galvanize, going on the West Coast and seemed to let loose and just, weren't the team that you saw with the 4-game losing streak?
Well, I thought we played with so much more purpose in the Golden State game. And then the gut out in the Sacramento game was a big win. And then, obviously played well enough to beat the Lakers. But, I think we always kind of look at what's last. Not a great taste in our mouth coming back on Monday night. But, I think that we just played with more purpose on both ends of the field.
Brad, with what happened with Russell Westbrook on Monday, did you notice that?
Yeah, I still haven't read the exchange. I don't know exactly what was said by both parties, but I do know that 99% of the interactions with fans are either very lighthearted or don't cross the line. But there are some that have, and I feel for the guys because they're right there. And we talk about how close the fans are to the benches, and it's even more so in the NBA. I mean, I don't go down to the end of the bench very often, but oftentimes there's people literally sitting on the end of your bench. There certainly is at the front. But again, I'd say most of the interactions are, lighthearted and just comes with the territory. But certainly there have heard some that have crossed the line over time. Sounded like the Jazz handled it the right way, I think one of the best things we can do is try to, be alert to the fact that, everybody involved is human being.
Can you tell you guys what to do in a situation like that? Is that even a conversation?
I think everybody talks about it so much. It's probably not as much conversation for me as maybe others. I think ultimately, again, we understand that good-natured heckling comes with the territory, and at the same time there is a line.
For the final 14 games this season, what do you hope to accomplish as you get ready for playoffs?
Better transition defense and improve our habits in the half-court defensively, improve our habits and our execution. Pretty simple. As you go through a film, there's a million things you could highlight, but I think ultimately, if we do those 3 things, then we'll be better than we are today. And I think we need to be better than we are today to be able to move on once the playoffs start, regardless of where we're seated.
Do you pay much attention to the seeding at this point, Coach?
I think everybody knows generally where we are. I think obviously being a couple games behind Philly and Indy is quite a challenge. I think ultimately those teams are both really good. We play those guys 3 more times out of our 14 games, but every one of our games is really important from a seeding standpoint. That being said, the most important thing is that we're playing well and we feel good 1 month from today when the playoffs start.
Brad, first came back from the West Coast trip is usually problematic. What do you do to avoid the typical problems?
I haven't gone through the last few years numbers-wise, but I think we've done our sports science group and everybody I think does a great job with this. There's a reason we travel when we do. There's a reason we stay over when we do. There's a reason we practice at 2 o'clock today instead of noon. There's a reason we'll come in at 4:45 tomorrow instead of 11. All that stuff is so that we can maximize our play when we get back on the court. To me, that's one of those things that, guys, you can certainly lean on as a crutch, and we should not do that. We should just get ready to play a good game tomorrow night. And we've done well in these games in the last couple of years. So, our opponent has to be the Kings tomorrow night, and they're awfully good, and so we know we need to play well.
Coach, your last couple of years starting lineups are fluid.
Yeah.
Any thoughts about adjusting flexibility?
Yeah, I mean, I said this before we leave. I mean, you're thinking about it every minute of every day. The reality is the start of the games for us have not been our issue. Start of the games have actually been really good. Now, we've had our moments in the second quarter. Sometimes start of the third quarter is not very good. In fact, you can look through the last 2 months, and that would be, fair to say that overall, which is unique because it's the same groups playing against each other. So that's something we've talked about. Felt better about that for the most part on our trip. But, I think the bottom line is we do have to be flexible. But as I said before we left, the root of our problem is playing better together. And, I think we made strides towards that.
How much does it help to get a good glimpse of that on that trip? How good we can.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we recognize that. We've had more good moments than bad moments. I think that, like I said before, we haven't always been great at staying in the moment in games, and we haven't always been great at moving on afterwards, and that's probably cost us a little bit here this year, but I think we know that if we play the right way, play together, play with the right effort, that we can be a good team.
Thank you.